So everybody these days wants to be a software engineer at big tech companies such as Google,
So you want to be a software engineer at Google?
Microsoft, Meta because of their attractive benefits such as free food, free massages, and whatnot. Although I would say that these benefits are really attractive, and they were one of the reasons that I also inclined towards, working at Google or Meta, right? But there is a downside to it as well. The points that I'm gonna mention in this video are from my experiences from my internship at Meta and my full-time job as a current software engineer at Google. So the first and foremost idea is that when you work at these big tech companies, you're gonna make an impact right when you land in. And that was something that I had in mind, that I'm gonna join Google, I'm gonna make something, I'm gonna change the company and whatnot, right? But the truth of the matter is that onboarding takes a lot of time. The company itself has such specific tools, and this is true for especially big tech companies such as Meta and Google, that they have toolings that the outside world doesn't use and doesn't know about. It takes time to actually onboard and learn all these toolings and get on ramp and speed with the team as well. The other thing is that these big tech companies usually progress a bit slower compared to smaller size companies such as startups. So what they do is that to onboard you as a new engineer, they give you a starter project which isn't that meaningful at all. And I guess this is very dependent to your team and your manager as well. So it can actually take a few meaningless projects till you actually get to a project where you can make an impact. The second thing that I'm going to bring up is that a lot of people think that software engineering is all about writing code, and it's actually not. And believe me, this can be really annoying sometimes, because you come in the state of mind that you're going to write a lot of code, you're going to make a lot of impact, following on from my previous point. And so when you actually find out that a lot of software engineering is actually just reading code, it's reviewing other people's code, and it's actually attending meetings and writing design documents. So what typically happens is that you're given a project and then you're supposed to write a design doc about it. And to write a design doc, you need to ramp up on the system that surrounds the project. And in order to do that, you have to read a lot of code. You have to do a lot of discussions with your teammates and your seniors. You'll receive a lot of feedback. You'll revision the design doc until it's at a point of state where you can actually write the code. And as you're writing along the code, you'll find out that maybe I missed this out, and then you'll go back to that design review stage, go back to reviewing the design and changing it. And it's a lot of back and forth between that. So it's not at all about writing code endlessly. So this can be sometimes frustrating, because you get the feeling that I'm not making impact at all, which is actually not the case, but it is just something that you have to overcome. The third point is that you feel a lot of imposter syndrome, and this is actually very common, and it's good that people are talking about it more and more. But a lot of people don't actually realize that when they join a big tech company, or when they join any company, right, they're going to feel imposter syndrome because they are surrounded by experienced individuals who know systems and coding much better than them. And then you start to question yourself of whether you actually fit into the team or not. And believe me, you do fit into the team, because these experienced individuals also went through the same stage. They had to onboard, they had to ramp up, they had to learn the same toolings and get experience in order to be where they are. And it's not helped by the fact that, especially when I join a team meeting and there's a lot of jargon being spoken about that I don't actually understand, because it's a lot of abbreviations. So it makes me feel that I'm not getting the full bigger picture, and that increases the imposter syndrome. So I would say that it is pretty natural to feel that you don't fit into a place, but this feeling actually goes away as you get more and more experience in the team, and you start to realize that you're onboarding, you can actually make an impact. And it's helpful to have helpful teammates around you who can assure you that they actually went through the same stage. And trust me, everyone does go through this stage. So if you're feeling that right now, just don't worry about it. This brings me to the fourth point, which is a bit related to our previous point of imposter syndrome, is that burnouts in the tech industry are very common, especially as a software engineer. And that's because you have all of this competitiveness to it, and you have this imposter syndrome. You don't feel like you're doing well enough, so you tend to push yourself over the limit. And this actually, in my opinion, does not boost productivity. It is actually counterproductive, because you actually don't do as much work as you would have ended up doing if you would have taken ample amount of breaks. So there's quite a good need to establish a boundary between work and home. A lot of people aren't able to do that, and it's a common tendency that if you're stuck on a problem and you get home from the office, you have this urge to just get into that problem and solve it, because it's bugging your mind. So you have to practice this, that work is left at work, When I come home, it's home time. I'm not going to overwork myself. So the fifth point is pretty much related to the previous point, and it's the peer pressure element of working as a software engineer. So let's say there's a person sitting next to you and they work overtime, they push in a lot of code, they're doing way above their expectations. Now, a tendency of human behavior is that when you see that, you feel like you're not doing enough. So in order to counter that, what a person does is that they also start overworking. They're gonna see their peer as a target and they're gonna work as much as them, even sometimes more than them, just so that you can feel better about yourself and not feel bad about not being productive, because your criteria of productiveness is being set by your peers. And in my opinion, that's a very wrong thing to do, because every person works in their own style. In my opinion, this is something that you should have a discussion with your manager. You should always compete with yourself. Your manager is actually supposed to set up the expectations for you, and you should be your own competition, and you should chase your own expectations instead of comparing yourselves to other people, because this tendency to compare, it actually doesn't lead anywhere. It's a bit toxic because a lot of people tend to overdo it. If you're taking it in a moderate sense of being competitive and doing better for yourself, then well and good. But if it's being toxic for you, then I would definitely suggest that you not do it. The sixth point is that in software engineering, there's always the need for upskilling. And maybe this is not a negative point, but it is a harsh reality, is that let's say you know some technology really well today. Let's say you knew Angular, but let's say 6 months from now, 1 year, 2 years from now, Angular might actually become completely obsolete. And that's the truth about the industry. Like, you always need to have upskilling. You always need to be aware around what's coming into the industry, and you need to surround yourself with that. And not just surround, you also need to be able to pick up the new skills so that you become more competitive in the industry. So that's something that you constantly need to do, and it's a habitually job of being a software engineer. My last point is going to be about the coffee addiction. And believe it or not, this is also a harsh reality because it has personally affected me. Coffee is such a big part of being a software engineer. When you come to work, you're gonna start your day off with a cup of coffee. So actually, one of the interesting things that my peer said is that they actually measure the complexity of the problem that they're solving by counting how many cups of coffee it took them to solve the problem. Now, what's really bad about this caffeine addiction? The bad thing is that caffeine, when taken in high amounts, it creates tolerance within your body. So you won't get the same amount of kick as you did from 1 cup of coffee, and then you'll require 2 cups of coffee. And this goes on, and it actually makes you more anxious. Like, when I'm talking in meetings, and if I've had a cup of coffee before that, I would feel really nervous talking in that meeting. So it's something that you might need to be mindful about as well. So that's it from my side. I hope you liked the points in this video. Please like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay tuned for similar content like this. And as always, see you guys in the next video.